former White House press secretary for President Trump, Sean Spicer, who is a NewsNation political contributor. Sean, this is your one-time boss, too. So give us some enlightenment. Tell us about what you know about President Trump that those of us watching don't, about how important it is for him to be there in person when Michael Cohen is in the room.
Well, look, obviously, I haven't spoken to the president about this, but based on their previous relationship, I would suggest to you that this is a personal thing. He wants to stare him down and make sure that he knows that he's not intimidated by Michael Cohen, a convicted felon who is out there now to try to right his own wrong and rewrite history. But the reality was I met Michael Cohen in the course of getting to know Donald Trump, and he was, as you know, was pointed out, his fixer, his enforcer, his consigliere. And it's interesting that now that all of his issues have come to light, he suddenly has flipped and tells a very different story. But for the longest time, in order to get to Donald Trump, politically speaking, you had to go through Michael Cohen.
Well, and again, we know that he was convicted and served time in prison for lying to Congress. But it is incredibly difficult to have people close to you when you're somebody as successful and as well known as the former president. But how much was Cohen involved in the Trump organization, in the business side of things?
Well, look, that's a great question. I mean, I know from, like I said, from my dealings on a political basis that Cohen was very involved, and he would present himself as somebody who controlled a lot of how the Trump organization did business, how Donald Trump interacted with people. So how he presents himself and what he actually did are two separate things that I don't necessarily know. And I think that's the issue, right? And I think that might be why Donald Trump is up there, is to say, yes, you put yourself out there. You were my go-to guy on the outside, but you didn't necessarily know how the business was operating internally. And that may be the rub, Adrienne, that there's a big difference between what Michael Cohen said to people, how he presented himself. And this wasn't just prior to 2016, it's even afterwards. Part of the way that he got clients was to go to people and tell them that he could get to Trump and he knew how Trump operated, et cetera. So part of this is really going to get down to what Michael Cohen says and presented himself as versus what he actually did.
Do you think, Michael Cohen aside, let's not even name any names, were there a lot of people who faked it around the former president?
No, absolutely, and they still do.
And that's all you're going to say. All right. We've got a lot of legal experts. Obviously, they say this whole case smacks of politicization. Is Cohen's testimony going to be significant at all?
So, number one, I don't think it will be. Again, he's a convicted felon. He's convicted for lying. So how much weight do you put into that? But number two, like, look, here's the situation. Tish James campaigned on getting Donald Trump. She made no secret about it. There's video of it. She was very clear about it. And I think you look at the time between when these infractions occurred and when they're going after him, it doesn't make sense. It clearly reeks of political prosecution, of a weaponization of the system. Whether or not you like Donald Trump or not, if you look at the sequence of events, it doesn't hold water for what a normal defendant would be going through.
And do you think he's going to get out of this, or do you think he's going to lose his empire? What's your gut telling you?
So in talking to folks that I know, because again, as a non-lawyer, I've been asking the same questions that you're trying to get to. What I've been told is that they may score an early victory legally, but ultimately, I think in every one of these cases, he will be vindicated. I think the Supreme Court's going to be very busy as we move forward. It just seems to be too hard to suggest that again, based on the sequence of events and how things have played out, that you can ultimately go back and unravel this. At the very best, though, the other thing to keep in mind is a lot of his assets are spread throughout. Mar-a-Lago's in Florida, Bedminster's in New Jersey. He's got properties in Scotland and throughout the country. And so they may have a stranglehold on some of the properties in New York. But I think ultimately, even though that case falls apart.
Sean Spicer, always good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.